everybody. In this episode, we're going to talk with Roman Soiko. He is with RS Professional Homes, and he's going to share how he does his video content and sets goals right after this. Hey everybody, welcome back to Watch Time. Thanks for joining us again. I would like to introduce our guest today. We have Roman Soiko. He is a real estate investor and CEO of RS Professional Homes. And we've actually had the pleasure of having you on before. You might have caught our previous episode. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate this. And your studio is awesome.
Thank you.
Pumped.
We love having people in here. It's fun. It's a party.
Yeah.
So just in case our listeners may have not caught the last episode, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. So I'm a real estate investor. Well, a business owner first, real estate investor second. We flip houses. We have rental properties. We have Airbnbs. What else? And then on the educational side, after the first podcast, I got into podcasting on my own. I got into more social media and started putting my videos out there, putting myself out there more, and then created a course on real estate investing, which you helped me, by the way. Yep. You shot that video for me. So in a nutshell, this is what I do.
That's excellent. And you touched on some of those things, which we definitely want to talk more about, because when we did the podcast before, it was in the middle of 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. And obviously, we're sitting here several years later now, which is crazy. But can you talk a little bit about how, you were using Instagram and Facebook to help, find and sell properties. You were teaching people how to do flips and rehabs on some of those platforms before. But can you talk about a little bit how your business has changed and maybe what triggered the idea to start doing podcasts and maybe change your video strategy up a little bit?
Yeah. So it wasn't really, I didn't really buy or sell properties because of social media. The business was operating on its own with its own lead sort. Like we have an acquisition team. I have a lot of virtual assistants that work for me and stuff like that. Where the content came in the picture is when I wanted to kind of give back. Okay. This is what I started doing. I said, you know what, I'm gonna put some stuff out there and I'm gonna give back to the people that follow me. The other big thing that happened, I think we touched on this in the past, is Marco. I got on Marco's. He did a couple of videos with me. Yeah, and he's got a huge following. So I picked up traction. And people started following me because they saw me on YouTube. And I still get those DMs all the time. I saw you on YouTube. I saw you on YouTube. Well, anyway, so I started putting content out there just to give back, But what happened was in return, people started seeing me as an authority figure in the real estate space. So just because I'm out there, maybe I'm not even doing as much as the next guy, but I'm out there putting it out. So then, I did buy a few houses off of Instagram. It's crazy to think about, but yeah, so people see what I'm doing. They're like, oh, hey, I got this house. Hey. So it helped me a little bit, but it was more of you establish dominance in your field or in your space by putting this stuff out there, videos and podcasts, in my opinion.
Yeah. Thought leadership is huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, for everyone that's listening and watching, what you're referring to with Marco is Whiteboard Finance. And he was actually on one of our episodes way back when. Yep. And I watched that video with him. And it is I know there's two, I believe, right?
Three, actually.
I haven't seen the third one. I've seen the first two. But you did a great job on that. But I feel like what you do really well, to your point, is you do a great job at explaining the intricacies of what you do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people probably have this idea where they know they want to get into real estate investing, or they know that there's a way they can make money doing that, and they don't really understand how to do it. And you've done a great job in the course that we helped you put together on Marco's videos and some of your content that you've put out on social media at explaining what you're doing and why you do it and how you do it. And I think that thought leadership is huge because the way I understand it, it's less than 1% of the population is actually content creators.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So when you think about it like that, like, a lot of people, they don't want to make content, but they want to learn. So you kind of you're joining that group of people that are that less than 1%. And so you're being a voice for people that want to do what you're doing. So I think that's great. I think it's awesome seeing, the videos that you're putting out. I know recently, I was watching, you were doing a video on, was it a farmhouse rehab?
Yeah, we just finished that. Yeah, sold that thing already.
See, how is that? I guess that's one question I have. Speaking of that, like when you put these series together like that, where you're walking through these houses and showing people what you're doing, does it help with the sales at all, or is that no?
No. So I just do it just to show people that follow me, this is not rocket science. Like you can do this. It's a house is just a box built of sticks and some plumbing and some electrical. Anyone can figure out how to flip a house and make a lot of money. So does it help me sell it? No, because the people that follow me, they follow me to learn how to do this business. My wife she does the sales. She's in the business with me. So she does the sales. She handles all that. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. Cause I guess like what's great about this, and that's why I was curious and why we wanted to have you on and really talk with you more is seeing the content you're putting out, and you kind of alluded a little bit to, you've bought a couple properties off Instagram, assuming through people that have followed you. But I guess in your eyes, what do you feel you really get out of creating this content, and how has this like kind of helped you even on your journey to becoming a better real estate investor? Is there anything that you've been able to pick up through that?
So I always followed other people. So there's a couple of things to talk about here. So I always followed other people, and especially coming up in the business, I followed and I watched like, okay, this is how this guy does it. And then a lot of times there's a lot of fluff. Well, actually, I would say 95% of the time, it's a bunch of fluff. You see people putting out a video of this amazing rehab, and then they'll say, look at this, I made $200,000. And here, all you have to do is this 3-step process. Just follow my 3-step process, or buy this thing and you can do this too. And I realize like it's not that simple. Like they'll trap you into buying their course or whatever. Because ultimately everyone's selling you something, right? That if you don't believe it, then you just don't get it. But everyone's trying to, that's why we're all out here. We're either promoting ourselves, promoting our business, promoting something. So I realized like, okay, this is not helping people. What's going to help people is the tactical breakdown of a house and why you need to remove this furnace and put this furnace in, and why should you buy this house versus this house, how to underwrite. So I saw a void in the industry. Nobody's talking about this stuff because this is the actual the secret sauce that nobody wants to share. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to share this stuff. And I'll be transparent on how much money I put in here, how much money I made, and all this stuff, because I don't care. And I guess what ended up happening, and we touched on this already, people like that. People want to see that. And people follow you, and people say, you inspired me. The other thing is inspiration. I feel like there's people that inspired me to get to where I'm at. There's also people that inspired me to quit my full-time job to get to where I'm at. So now it's my turn to inspire others. Most people don't think they can accomplish what I accomplished. Most people think that that's for the rich people, or you had to inherit a bunch of money to do this. And I'm showing people that that's not the case. Anyone can do this if you just put your head down and work. So a lot of my stuff is just the tactics of a house rehab or building out a rental portfolio. We're getting into Airbnbs. But a lot of it is just opening people's eyes that, hey, man, I'm no better than you. I'm just like you. And you can do this too. You know what I mean? So, that was a long answer.
No, I think you touched on some really important stuff, though, because that is a hesitation that we hear a lot of times from people is like, well, I don't want to give up too much information, or they call the secret sauce or anything like that. But I mean, really, we always talk about too how like helpful content is the new viral content. Like if people watch something and it's not helpful to them, they're not going to continue to follow you. Like it has to be useful content, and maybe sharing a little bit of the steps along the way. Not viewing it so much as like a competitive thing, but just a helpful thing to, again, I think we always talk about how we feel like there's enough business for everybody, like there's enough to go around. But I think a lot of people really struggle to overcome that mentality that they're just giving all their secrets away. But I think that inhibits their content.
I'll tell you a little thing. We were in Mexico on vacation. And as we were landing in Cleveland, we were looking out the window, and my daughters were like, "Oh, look at all those little houses, all those little tiny houses." And I was like, "Yeah, look at all those little tiny houses. There's so many of them. They're literally just blocks and blocks and blocks, and you just can't even see the horizon." And people think that by not giving this information, that if they hold the secret sauce, they're preventing competition. If you ever flew on an airplane, just look down and see how many houses, how many buildings there are. I'm talking about my industry.
Yeah.
There's an infinite amount of houses and money you can make. So even the competition, there's so much competition in this space. They're making tons of money. But you can make tons of money too, and we don't even know each other.
Yeah.
I met some people in Cleveland that are crushing it in the real estate industry. I'm talking about crushing it, and I've never heard their name. That goes to show that there's it's businesses like sunshine. There's enough for everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we see that even with our industry. There's so many video production companies and that start up every day, not to mention like so many in Cleveland. And like there's so many times that I've come across companies on Instagram where I'm like, oh, how long have you been in business? Mm-hmm. And like you look back and it's like, oh, we've been in business since 2008 or 2009. And you're like, how have I never heard of you? But to that point, there's enough business to go around. And I think the fact that you're willing to give the information away is an important lesson to the people that are listening, especially the people who want to create content, because I think really you have to truly believe that, like if you're creating content for thought leadership content or content for your business, you have to truly believe that you are trying to help people. Like the people that are just kind of faking it, to your point, like they're going to give away that fluff. They're going to give away stuff that like aren't really going to give people any advice or help with anything. It's just going to like entice them to come sign up for something, or it's just going to, basically give them things that anybody can, easily find out if they've just even been around the industry. So I think the fact that you're willing to give that away shows your commitment to not just, your business, but like you want to give back. You want to do, like you said, help other people the way that you were helped. So I think that's great.
And it's not easy because you have to do this intentionally. And whenever you flip a house, you have to think about, hey, what do people want to see? Like, do they want to see this step or that step, or do they just want to see a final walkthrough? Like, what do they want to see? So you have to intentionally film these videos with a purpose. And the other struggle that I've had, honestly, is being caught up as a user on social media, not a content creator. Because recently I started doing both, so I had to cut myself off. Mm-hmm. So I had to do like kind of like a reset from December to like February and say, you know what? I'm consuming too much time on social media, scrolling on Reels instead of putting out content. Mm-hmm. So after like cutting myself off for a little bit, I didn't put out any content, and I also didn't consume any. So now I'm back and I'm putting it out more, and I'm trying not to consume any. Like completely, I even erased the app off my phone.
That's a point I did want to ask you about, because we were talking about how like it is really hard to take the time to create content. And Bill and I have taken different approaches to that over the years. I think our latest approach is that we really, to our best, try to make Friday like internal marketing days where we do, today's a Friday and we're doing podcast recording. And to our best ability, just like not schedule shoots at least on Fridays. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of been our focus. But how do you go about like finding the time? Do you like to, create a bunch of content at once, or do you kind of, do one piece at a time as you have time through the week? Mm-hmm. Or
I'm not as structured like that. I just, whenever I see an opportunity, I'll film something. So, but I do sometimes, like if we're flipping multiple houses, I'll create a content piece here, I'll create a video here, and they're in my phone, and then I'll release them like once a week, couple of times a week. But I also do a lot of stories too. So like a story, just a walkthrough of something, like a funny incident that's happening in a business or something. So I'll do stories. But as far as putting out content, yes, that's how I do it. Just whenever I feel like, oh, this is something that people probably want to see. So then I'll film it, and sometimes I'll hold it in my phone for a while before I upload it to Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So yeah, but what I should be doing, and actually I don't know if I should or I shouldn't. I don't edit any of my stuff. It's just raw video because I don't have time. But I also noticed that some people don't care because they're consuming the information for the information, not my editing skills, which I have none. So
that is a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with that, I mean, when you think about, so a great example, I think this is like TikTok. With TikTok, like a lot of people don't do any editing with that. It's all so similar to Reels. Like it's very raw. And I think the advantage that, in my opinion, that you have with doing it that way is, when it's not overly produced, they know like, and maybe this adds to your authority, like he's out there in the trenches doing the same thing. Like that's why, like you're doing the work, you're not producing it to try and sell a course. You're not producing, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that probably lends to your audience, like wanting to listen to you and believe what you're saying versus like, oh, he's probably leaving half of this out, he's only going to give us half of it. But now knowing though that it's kind of like how you're doing this, like in a raw approach, do you do any pre-production or anything like that? Do you plan, like you were kind of talking about, like, I think about like, should I show, I'll show this furnace, why you should swap this out. Do you do any actual planning ahead of time? Like, do you write down any notes or anything like I should cover these couple things when I walk through the house or?
No, I just on site, I'm like, oh yeah, we should film this. I should film this. Okay, let's do it. And then I just do it live.
Okay.
What I do is with the podcast, I'll have an outline because with my podcast, so it's also about teaching. It's also about giving back and teaching like a specific thing. Like I have a series coming up on property management. How do we manage our rental properties 100% virtually with virtual assistants? Like that's something that you probably are not going to find anywhere else. Yeah. And I'll write out like, because it's easy to get lost, so I'll write out the topics that I need to hit on, like a bullet point. And I don't script it. Just like we are right now talking, that's how I do my podcast also, but I'll follow outline. Okay. But for videos, no. Maybe I should, and I've done that in the past. Okay. Because it keeps it more structured. But I just do it, whatever. I just do it live.
No, that's interesting. Like I'm actually kind of excited about your podcast series on that because that's something that I feel like, to your point, like a lot of people wonder about. Because I've often done, like I've been on trips and stuff, and I like look at Airbnbs and I'm like, do these people live here? How do they manage this if they don't live? A lot of people like have Airbnbs all over and they don't obviously live there. So it's kind of interesting to understand how to do that. So it's pretty cool.
Let's touch on the virtuality of the world, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
So people manage Airbnbs from their phone on a different side of the world. You can be in Europe and manage an Airbnb in Florida. It's the way the business is now, and this goes for everything, man. Like most of my business is ran by virtual assistants, people that work in the Philippines, and they're smart, they're educated, they have master's degrees. Obviously, the wage is different than what is here in the States, but we have systems and processes set up where a door could be unlocked from the Philippines. A furnace can be turned down and turned up with motion sensors when people walk into the house. A cleaner could be scheduled as soon as the guest checks out. And a maintenance request could be handled with a text on WhatsApp. So we don't have to be there to do any of this stuff. I mean, these Airbnbs are local to me, and I am involved with the remodel and design, but just for the business for the future, the way we're looking at it is if we buy a cabin in Montana, I don't have to be there. Yeah. Because of how everything is just virtual and tied together. It's crazy. Yeah. So
Yeah, it is. No, it is really crazy. Sometimes I look back, I think about this. Like I look back and think about, I don't know, like the 30s or 20s or whatever, and it's like, you know what, we didn't have this saturation. If you wanted to open a grocery store and have your little small business, like there probably weren't a lot of other grocery stores in your town. And, sometimes I think about like, oh, they had so much opportunity back then, but I think we have a really cool opportunity now with being able to do global business from our living rooms, so I think that's also a pretty cool opportunity that people, don't take for granted sometimes. And, and just be able to make lots of different, connections and everything without having to physically go, travel there. So you bring up a cool point.
Mm-hmm. That's an exciting thing too. Like when you think about even from the content creation perspective, right? So with the podcast, right? You're saying like how many people are listening to you and learning from you. I know like with our podcast, I've looked at the stats and like we get a lot of people, in Ohio, which I'm not surprised because, we're based out of Ohio, but there's probably people that we know that, are local that are listening to us. But we also get just as many listeners in California and in New York. And I find that interesting because I'm like, here we are, a video production company in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're talking with different guests and about different processes we have, and we're helping educate people in different states. I mean, there's other states too, but those are just as saturated in terms of listeners as Ohio is. So it's kind of cool when you think about it, like what you're doing content-wise, whether it be through the podcast or through social media, you're helping people not just here. I mean, they could be in Florida, they could be in, out in California, they could be in Maine, wherever, and and you're helping educate them and inspiring them to like kind of whether it be they're going to go all in and that's going to be their business, or whether they're like, hey, it would be cool just to make a little extra money to help with the kids going to college or something like that.
Absolutely.
So that's great.
I always say this too. So I'll tell you guys a little story. So I grew up in Ukraine. So I moved from Ukraine and when I was a teenager, the former Soviet Union. And then I moved here to the States, and then I hear people say that they can't get ahead, or there's not enough opportunity here, or certain people don't get the same opportunity. And I always think like, you guys have no freaking idea. If you grew up in the Soviet Union, that's where there's no opportunity. That's the Soviet Union. That's communism. And we come here to the land of opportunity, which is United States, and you tell me that there's no opportunity. Like, get out of here. Yeah. And then the other thing is, this is what made me talk about what you said was how we're so connected, right? You can literally get on Google or YouTube and find anything you want. You can find a podcast on any single niche in the world. And you tell me that there's no opportunity. I think we have a lack of drive. And people who don't want to create an opportunity for themselves and just want to be handed things. But with the information that's available on the internet now, there's endless opportunity. You just got to take action. And that's what I'm trying to push with my podcast and my social media. Like, some people chase the money and they chase it and they think real estate is the way to go. I mean, you can argue yes or no. Yeah, real estate's a great vehicle to get to financially where you want to be. But that's what I'm trying to show them. That's why I got into it. So to show them the tactical breakdown on how to get there. Yeah. If they're willing to listen, of course.
Well, and I think it's great, like just looking at your social media and knowing you as long as I have, like, I think what's outstanding is I think drive is determined by your goal. So I think some people, like their goal is they just want to make maybe they just want to make a lot of money. I just want to make a lot of money. I want to have that really nice car. And that's all they see right now. There's no other picture. And I feel like when I look at your social media, when I talk with you, I can tell like your goal was independence. Your goal was more time with your family. Your goal was being able to provide a life for your family. I see that in all the photos that you post. I don't know whether that was your main goal or not, but I can see a picture that I think you were painting for yourself when you got started versus people that have a hard time with drive. They might just say, I want to make money, but they have no other idea where they're going to go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and that was my goal, was to have freedom to do whatever I want. But see, people don't realize that money is just a vehicle to freedom. So when you get that, you realize that the actual money or the numbers in your bank account, or you could pull it up on your phone, and that thing doesn't make me happy. I don't care how many zeros are there. That's not what makes you happy. It's the constant, or it's the goal setting, achieving those goals, and then the freedom that you get, that money creates. Freedom to travel, freedom to do whatever. But also, I know a lot of, so I'm part of a couple of masterminds, and a lot of people that achieve certain level of success, and then they exit their business, or they cash out millions of dollars, or they completely outsource their operation. They get bored and they become depressed, and then they look for the next thing, and then they'll start another company, and then they go through the whole thing, exit, they bored, they become depressed. So I feel like in life, you always have to have something that you strive for. And this is where goal setting is huge. And then your goals are also going to change. Like they're going to change as you grow in business or in life. So, but you always have to wake up with and do something and strive for something and achieve some sort of a achievement, or achieve that goal that you had on your goals list for the last 3 years or whatever. And then, exercise too. I know this is not like a exercise podcast, but even if you hit all your goals, financially, business, whatever, you can never hit all your exercise goals, because there's always some sort of race you can run. There's always more weight you can lift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's always, like, you hit that 315, next is 405. Like I'm shooting for 405, So that's the other thing. If people are struggling with that, you always have to set boundaries and goals further than what you think you can accomplish, because you'll accomplish them.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that. So I'm actually in a mastermind too. And like this, I'm going to butcher this, but this was the topic of our last meeting, is that, I think I'm going to butcher this, but it's that most people underestimate what they can do in a year and overestimate what they can do in a week or a month. And I feel like, and what I've noticed from being in this group is, like, prior to the mastermind, I had goals, but I didn't write them down. You know what I mean? So like I knew like what I wanted to do, but as soon as I started writing them down, as soon as I started referring back to them and being held accountable to them, then I started seeing success in hitting those goals. And I think that that's key, whether anybody that's listening or watching, whether you're in a mastermind or whether you're in any type of business like networking group or something like that, is I think setting some type of goal is like the key to, and I think that's the key to content creation as well. Like we're seeing success in creating more content now because we've set that goal of every Friday, that's content creation day. We're going to achieve, we want to get X number of podcasts recorded and get them out. So I think that's, to your point, when there's no goal and you don't have a way to like track that. But I also feel like too, like for anybody listening, don't get in that trap of, thinking you have to hit that. Like they are movable, to your point. Like they're going to move around, and that's fine. But yeah, to not have a goal. And I think it's very clear looking, like talking with you and like looking at stuff you're doing, like you had these goals set and you're moving along with them.
For years. Yeah. For years. And I wrote them down for years. The other thing, here's another little trick for everyone listening. So it's not, and I think my last podcast was on this. It's not just writing the goal down. Because if you write the goal down, yes, there's like some sort of connection, brain and pen and paper and mind. There's some sort of connection that actually writing it down and putting it on paper makes it more real and obtainable. But it's also working that goal backwards. Have you heard of this concept?
I think, but go ahead.
Like so find the steps to obtain that.
Obtain that, working it, formulating it backwards to monthly and daily actions. So like, let's say in my business, let's say I say I want to do 50 flips this year, which we don't do 50. We do like under 20. Last year we did like 18. But let's say I want to do 50 flips per year. So then I have to work that backwards. So I'll look at, all right, so we did 18. How many offers did we put in to get the 18 that we got? So then I'll see like, all right, for every 10 offers, one got accepted. Okay, so that's 10 offers we got to make to get one deal. So let's work that backwards. Now, how many offers do I have to make to get 50 deals? And then I break that down by months. Okay, so I don't know, I'm not good at math, but whatever that is, let's say it's 500 offers. Let's break that down by 12 months. So let's say we do whatever, 50 offers a month or something, and then break that down by day. And then if you break that down by day and you say, okay, now I have to make whatever 15 offers a day, then and 1 out of 10 gets accepted, I should get my goal.
Yeah.
And that works with exercise, fitness, business, life, relationships, anything. You know, you can do this with your significant other. You can say, you know, I want to go on a date night every other night or every other week or every week. All right, let me break that down. What do I have to do for that? Well, first of all, I got kids. We have to set a babysitter, right? We have to have a babysitter. So let me put that in my calendar, make sure I set a babysitter, and then I have to research what restaurant we're going to and book that restaurant.
Yeah.
So like you can be really intentional with goals.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I love that.
Do you vision board at all? Like, is that something that you do where you like create like a picture to like?
I did one time. But now my visions are different. Like I used to have like a house and like a car, but now that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Like my goals are different. It's not something I can vision. You know, I don't think it's something I can vision. It's just, but I write it down I keep all my goals on a Google Drive and I have multiple goals for multiple things. I break it down by sections and I keep them in my phone and I review them every single day.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great advice. So what I wanted to ask you too, because all the information you gave us a lot of information on, and anybody that's listening and watching, like on not just content creation, but setting goals and trying to be successful in anything that they're doing. What do you want, like, what would you say are your key takeaways from that you want our listeners to maybe take away from this episode? Like if you could name 3 things, like these are the 3 things that we talked about that, you know, maybe you could start doing today, or you should start thinking about doing to create an impact, whether that be through content creation, goal setting.
So just 3 things. All right. So I would say start, if you're not doing any content at all, like start doing it. Like it doesn't matter. It'll help you grow your business and it'll help you become a dominant force in your field. And you'll establish a following and that will open doors and opportunities you didn't know existed. So just start doing it. It doesn't matter how stupid you look to yourself, because other people look at it and they don't think you look stupid.
Yeah, you're always more critical of yourself.
They think you're cool. Like, oh, wow, look, he's doing it or whatever. But yeah, just start doing it. It's also work. So realize that it's not just, you have to commit and then not just give up after a week because you didn't get 12 million followers in a week. Like that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Like you can have solid 1,000 followers and you can run a legitimate business. Like you don't need I think the social media out there kind of pushes this agenda that you need to have whatever amount of followers. None of that matters, guys. Like you need your solid core base of followers and they'll help you in whatever business you're in. Or podcast listeners. So anyway, just start doing it. Just start doing it, but commit. And then what we talked about, goal setting is important. So I would say second biggest takeaway for you guys would be set some goals. Set them just above what you think you can accomplish. Because if you think you can accomplish it, you're probably not shooting high enough. Like you'll shoot to where you aim. If you aim to make 6 figures, that's what you make. That's what you're going to make. But if you shoot to make $1 million, then maybe that's a little bit out of your reach, but shoot for it at least. Even if you come up short at 600,000 for a year, at least you're not at 100,000. So you always have to shoot higher than what you think you can achieve. So set some goals, and then and the last thing, in my opinion, is so we talk about investment a lot. Or I talk about different types of investments and businesses, but what I realized over the years that the biggest investment you can make, the biggest one, is your health. That's the biggest investment. You get the biggest ROI, return on investment, is your health. So
you can't do anything if you're not healthy. If you're not of good body and mind, you can't do good business. So I think that's a really important thing. It's hard, I think, especially like with a family and business and everything, to be able to devote time and the attention that all those parts of your life deserve. But that's a huge thing. I know, like with Bill and I too, that you got to take care of yourself and you got to get sleep and and all that stuff too.
All that sleep, diet, food, intake, all that stuff.
It is. Well, this is great. I mean, I love how we talked about video content, but we talked a lot about business and just life too. And I think all that stuff's important. So, where can people go to watch your podcast or watch your videos or learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so podcast is Building Roman's Empire. I don't know why I called it that, but that's what I called it.
Sounds cool. I like it.
It's actually the intention behind that was like, as I'm building my business, you can follow me and watch it.
Okay.
Like you can actually follow along, like as we're growing. So Building Roman's Empire. Oh, and that's because my Instagram handle, which is romanempire.cle. So you can, Instagram is romanempire.cle. You can follow also my business, which is RS Professional Homes. You can follow that on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And we'll post like rehabs and stuff like that, like final product. Like maybe you get some design inspiration from that. But my personal stuff is, like I said, romanempire.cle. That's probably the number one. And listen, if you're interested in real estate or you're thinking about starting it, romanempire.cle and Building Roman's Empire podcast, I literally talk you step by step through how I got started. From episode 1, literally, I talk about how I got started. So
it's great information. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being back on the podcast. It was good to catch up. I can't believe it's been 3 years already. Time flies.
We got to do this again.
This is great. We really enjoy it.
We definitely will have you back on, and we'll get some updates on see your goal setting and see where it's progressed and see where you are with content and go from there.
I appreciate that, guys. I do have a lot of goals and a lot of content goals, and so and what's crazy is the way I progressed from last year or last time we were on to now, and I'm excited just to see what's going to happen next 3 years.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm excited to watch you grow, you guys, because guys are, this. I mean, this studio is amazing. So every time I talk to Bill, I'm like, man, look at Bill just crushing it.
This is our third office space, and
it's great.
It is and it is crazy to look back to. Sometimes you forget to assess your own progress and and really look back and see how far you've come. So thank you so much.
See you guys later.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Watch Time. We hope you guys enjoyed today's episode.
And remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes.
And if you want your question answered on our podcast, go to flexmediacle.com/watchtime.